Gentlemen, welcome back. You're back with MGTOW Money. Today's topic, she cheated on you and other disappointments you might be dealing with. Before we get to that though, let me sincerely thank the latest Patreon supporters of this channel. Thanks so much to Shane as well as the prolific poster commenter on this forum, on this channel, NYC Korean. Guys, thank you very much for supporting this channel because we are moving it forward. I urge you, gentlemen, check out the show description, become a Patreon supporter, or at the very least, simply buy me a cup of coffee. See the show description notes. You can buy me a cup of coffee via PayPal. All right, gentlemen, let's get on to today's topic. She cheated on you and other disappointments. Look, no matter what your age, 8 or 80, if you're a living human being, you're guaranteed to have disappointments. You're guaranteed to face some sort of something doesn't quite happen as you expect it to. And specifically, I'm defining disappointments being a mismatch between what you expect to happen, what you predict is going to happen, what you're hoping and wishing is going to happen, and actually what happens in the future. In other words, it's a misforecast. I'm hoping X happens and I get Y. So of course, simple disappointments like you go to a movie, it's not very good. You get a parking ticket. You lose a pickup game of basketball. These are simple, mild disappointments. Generally, they go by the wayside, mentally at least, very, very quickly. More serious disappointments, of course, you lose your job, you lose money in some sort of investment, or it doesn't quite work out as well as you had hoped. More serious, very serious type disappointments, you come down with some sort of serious disease, your girl cheats on you, or your wife, of course, cheats on you. I'll get to that in just a second. Or you have some sort of sudden loss of a loved one. Again, these can be much more crippling, much more difficult things to deal with. And I've got some ideas and some hacks on dealing with those, specifically those that are more difficult, more challenging, in just a moment. Now, again, the more simple ones, those ones that I mentioned, those parking ticket, going to the movie, you get a cold cup of coffee when you've ordered coffee from Starbucks, whatever. Those things are simple. Those are easy. Those are quickly forgotten. But those more serious ones are where a lot of us run into major difficulty. I'm talking about disappointments where you feel like you've actually been punched in the gut. And I mean literally, where psychologically you feel like you're being torn apart, where you've got serious negative physical side effects, not just mental side effects. Let me give you a real life example from my own experience. I remember, this is decades ago, fortunately, when I became aware after I had moved out, after my ex-wife and I at the time had separated, and I became aware in my small little apartment, there I was unemployed, where I was notified that my wife had been cheating on me, frankly. She had been seeing a mutual friend of ours. I was absolutely devastated. It knocked me to the floor. I was writhing in physical pain. I couldn't believe it. This was the last thing that I expected to happen. In particular, not only just my wife cheating on me, but with what I thought was a close confidant, personal friend. Oh well, so much for our friendship. Needless to say, here's some ideas that I wish I would have known, some hacks, some skills that I could have used at that time that I do use now today to overcome these types of serious difficulties and even minor difficulties that I deal with, minor disappointments that I deal with, to push me forward. And I hope that you can take something from this because I know that a lot of you are dealing with some serious disappointments, as we all are. So let's roll on. First of all, understand all events that happen to you are neutral. Frankly, gentlemen, I know that you're going to find this hard to believe. Nothing in the universe cares about you. You are not some sort of unique snowflake. Paraphrasing the Stoic Epictetus, nothing good or bad happens to you. It's only your interpretation of it. So all these things that happen in your world are just purely neutral, if you will. It becomes your interpretation of them. And to take that a step further, something you might want to try to do when you are dealing with a disappointment, and you can start out with small minor things, is think about these things as if everything is scripted, as if your entire life is just this movie and you're just an actor in it and you're just playing a role and all these different things that are happening to you are sort of scripted and that they're just sort of, frankly, meant to happen. And I'm not trying to be spiritual or metaphysical, and I'm not trying to rationalize bad things happening, but just accept that these things sort of just happen, and you've got to be like water, frankly, and just go around them, go under them, go on top of them, and just frankly, move on. And I know this can be extremely difficult. This needs to become a habit. Some things are easy to just sort of forget about, to put it in the back of your mind. But the more that you do it, again, I'm speaking from experience, the more that you can develop this skill, the more that you can develop this habit, the more content you'll be. I don't want to say necessarily happier, but you will be more content and you will find life a lot easier. So no matter how many disappointments you have, you can start seeing these things as being neutral to you, if you will. And again, changing your interpretation on them. So let's continue on with some other ideas. No matter how many disappointments you have, many of them can be, if you change the way you look at them, see them as a blessing in disguise. Again, speaking from my own personal experience, I've had, unfortunately, in my previous professional life, serious disappointments. For example, being passed over a promotion where I was clearly qualified for. In hindsight, though, I realized that how much that actually benefited me. At the time, of course, I was extremely disappointed, especially when I was sure and I was verbally told I was going to be the person that was promoted. To have it sort of pulled out from under me is obviously very, very disappointing. But in retrospect, as I can see now today, as time has passed, that those were actually blessings in disguise. So again, when you're dealing with disappointments, maybe it is a blessing in disguise. Maybe there is something else going on. I don't know. You don't know. Maybe you just need to wait a couple of weeks, couple of months, couple of years and reflect back and you say, wow, that was a good thing that didn't happen to me. Or that actually turned out in a favorable way as opposed to a negative way as I interpret it. Next, let's look at another tool. Start training yourself to find the lesson in every disappointment. Again, it's a cliche, looking for the silver lining in the cloud, etc., but it really, really is true, gentlemen. Start looking for one lesson, one action item, one thing that you could do differently in the future to increase the odds it won't happen again, or one change in your behavior that you could do that would actually turn it into a good thing as opposed to a bad thing. In other words, teach yourself to be smarter, to make better decisions in the future, to think about the mistakes that you might have made with those disappointments and how they might be able to be avoided in the future. Again, a few years ago, actually, it was many years ago, it was probably a decade or so ago, I totaled a car. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but I totaled a car. How did I total a car? I wasn't paying attention. It was 100% my fault, and I totaled a car. I can tell you, gentlemen, you know what the big lesson I learned from that is? I am a much more careful driver. I drive much more slowly. I drive like an old grandfather. I have learned serious repercussions of not paying attention. And that is something that I hope all of you can learn from that, is not the concept of drive like an old man, but think about what one lesson can you extrapolate from your disappointment? What one deep idea can you learn from that? If you're deeply in debt right now, gentlemen, what lesson can you learn from that in terms of what could you do differently? And what can you start doing today to ensure that doesn't happen in the future? So in other words, how do we stop the bleeding? I'm severely in debt. And number two, what can I do today to make sure it doesn't happen anymore? All right, gentlemen, let's quickly sum up here. Look, stuff happens. Bad things happen to good people. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. As you go through life, start today acting as if everything has been scripted. You're just an actor in a movie, in a play, and these things are happening exactly as they're supposed to. Next, start preparing. Stop predicting, gentlemen. Start preparing. It's a cliche, but it's true. Hope for the best, expect the worst. Prepare, gentlemen. Expect it. Maybe things could go sideways. If nothing else, mentally prepare for them. Thirdly, most importantly, in my opinion, find the lesson in your disappointments, gentlemen, and change your behavior accordingly. You can make better decisions in the future if you can learn from your mistakes, or even better, observing others and their mistakes. Again, you're going to know to adjust your behavior so you don't end up making those same errors. Although for me, unfortunately, I'm the type who touches the hot stove as opposed to watching somebody else do it. All right, gentlemen, that's it. Hit the like button if you found this useful. Of course, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. John Galt, out.